Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
Well, we started competitions on Friday afternoon, and I think we'll start the programme exactly as we started competition. And I always think there's something a bit special about the first class of the festival. And once again, it is a bumper festival with competitor numbers up, and the competitions will be going on right through till next Saturday daytime. And then, of course, next Saturday night, we will have the festival's finest. If you can't get to any of the classes in the Guild, if you can't get to any of them, please try to come to the concert on Saturday night, because the people who are going to take part in the concert are selected as the week goes on, and for most of the time they're winning performances, but sometimes they're not necessarily the winning performance, but there's a performance that's something a little bit special. It is a fabulous variety show. You will love it. Take my word for it, because I already know a couple of the people who's going to be taking part. So see if you can manage that. But if you can come and see us during the week, that'll be great. So we started competitions in the Promenade Suite Friday afternoon with the instrumental solo, the brass instruments. This is for up to 11-year-olds. So we've got lots of young players here showing lots of promise. And poor Julian Power, I really do not know how that man does it, because traditionally he's always the accompanist for the instrumentalist, but he's also the musical director for chess, which is where, that's right, it's on at the Gaiety this very week. So he did have to have a little bit of help. There's another accompanist who'd been covering some of the classes, but he was playing for the first class on Friday afternoon. And the winner was Thomas Shimmin. He's playing a B-flat cornet, and it's a Pamela Wedgwood piece, and this is class winner Thomas Shimmin, and he's playing for us Buttercup. Well-deserved applause there for class winner Thomas Shimmin. Now, we had joint second place in that class, and I'm going to play both of them because they picked great songs, great pieces of music. When you hear them, you will understand exactly what I mean. So we had a joint second place for Anna Boardman and Oscar Lang. Again, they're accompanied by Julian Power. Let's listen first to Anna Boardman. And there we are, second placed Anna Boardman, and she was walking in the air, playing a B flat. What was Anna playing? Playing cornet. Now, I just had to include the other second place, to joint second place here, Anna and Oscar Lang. Now, Oscar's playing the E flat tenor horn, and just one of my absolute favourite tunes. Wasn't that great? The Pink Panther from Oscar Lang. So that was how we started the afternoon in the Promenade Suite on Friday afternoon. And I'm going to play some more instrumental brass solos for you, but we'll just mix things up a little bit now, and we're going to have some singing. We had later in the day, well, in fact, early evening in the Promenade Suite on Friday, we had the boys and girls solos in Manx. And some very, very talented singing here. We're going to listen to Erin Loach, and Erin chose to sing Smuggler's Lullaby, and it gave her a first place in the girls' solo in Manx up to aged 15. This is roughly age 15. And this was one of the classes that Bob Carswell adjudicated. And I just had a very, very quick word with Bob as he was leaving the studio before I started this programme. And I said, Bob, I don't know how you do it. And he looked very glum and he said, I don't really like it, because we both of us kind of agreed that anybody taking part, as far as we're concerned, deserves a prize. Really, just for practicing and standing up, having the courage to stand up there and do it. But somebody's got to do the adjudicating, haven't they? Because it isn't actually about who wins. It's about how much help the adjudicator can give. And Gary Sealing, who you'll hear me mention a few times, who is adjudicating quite a lot of classes at the moment. He's very funny. He gives lots of helpful advice as well, though, but he tells quite amusing little stories on the way. But he also is very, very hard on people who come in for the start of a class. He says we should be ashamed of ourselves and we should come and stay for the whole day because, he says, you can learn a tremendous amount. And he's absolutely right. I've always said, haven't I, that listening to the adjudicators, you learn a tremendous amount. But I think he's a bit kind of tongue-in-cheek, because I think he does also realise that whilst we would learn a tremendous amount, ever so many people have got other things to do, like going to work. And it isn't that we wouldn't like to sit in the Villa Marina all day, it's just that we don't always have that luxury, do we? Right, you know what I say, if you can't get to the Villa, listen to Manx Radio, and I will do my very best to bring you as much of the Manx Music Festival as I can. So, let's have a little bit of Manx now. Erin Loach, she won her class girls solo in Manx up to aged 15. She chose to sing Smuggler's Lullaby, and this is how she sang in order to win the class. This is Erin Loach.
Oh,
That was class winner Erin Loach. Now, you might be saying, well, where are the marks? Well, it's a little bit different in the Manx Music Festival this year. And this is in response to advice that's been given to us by the adjudicators. And of course, the adjudicators are spending the whole time going around to festivals like ours and adjudicating classes like ours. And they say that they feel, especially with the young people, that it's better to give, everybody gets a comments sheet, which is, that the adjudicators put a lot of advice on the comment sheets for each of the competitors, and they also give them a mark. And the marks will go on the Manx Music Festival website. They're there already. But they feel that it's better not always to give out the marks. They will be giving out marks for the adult classes, but it's more about encouraging and advising the young people to really to help them. The whole point of it is to help them to enjoy their music, their performances, to be more confident. That's what it's all about. And so the adjudicators say it is really better for it all to be on the results sheet, so that they can go away and talk to their teacher and read it themselves and, perhaps try out some of the things that the adjudicators suggest rather than compete for marks. It's all about encouragement and informing and teaching and enjoyment. So I will be mentioning one or two marks when we get round to the adult classes and where there are exceptional marks, but everybody got marks in the high 80s for these classes, which indicated a generally high standard of performance. The winner of the boys' solo in Manx was Isaac Kreisky, who did incredibly well considering his family have just come back from Australia literally a day before the Guild started. They sort of stepped off the plane and straight into the Villa Marina. But when you're a youngster, don't think you're bothered with jet lag, are you? We'll hear from Isaac in a few moments, but let's have some more instrumental music. And this is another of the classes on Friday, and this was the instrumental solo for school years 7 and 8, so that's sort of around about 11 to 13, isn't it? Again, Julian was the accompanist, and this produced a first place for Emily Neen. Emily's playing a B-flat cornet and that beautiful piece, Solitaire. This is Emily Neen. And that was first placed Emily Neen and Solitaire. In second place in that class was Ophelia Watts. Emily, incidentally, had 89 for that performance. Very good. And Ophelia just 1 mark behind with 88. That's just to give you an idea of the range of marks. So lots of high-quality performances there. It's time for us to take a break now, and we'll do that when we return. I'll play for you Isaac Kreisky's winning song, his boys solo in Manx, and I've got lots more. We've got choirs, and we have got coming up very soon some lovely folk songs. Lots to listen to as Sundown goes to the Guild.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Sundown, brought to you by Tours Isle of Man. Tours gift vouchers are the ideal present for someone special to put towards a coach holiday. Call us on 822 611.
And Sundown is at the Guild until 11 o'clock. And I promised you the winner of the boys' solo in Manx. And here he is, class winner Isaac Kreisky.
Slew, wheel, slew, slew, wheel, slew. The Julia Vangan Arabella slew and skin. Lushery and on, as they been a snow. Sunshine dripped, dropped, have I wished a breath. Slew, wheel, slew, ren, we are ren. As the Julia clay erudite slew and on. Lushery and on, as they been a snow. Sunshine dripped, dropped, have I wished a breath. Slew, wheel, slew, ren, we are ren. As the Julia dawn era dry slew and on. Lushery and on, here as they been a snow. Sun Travis and feather chat, have I wished a breath.
Lots of encouraging applause there for class winner Isaac Kreisky, and he beat off competition from Jacob Kennedy and from Pierre Giuliani, who were very, very close behind him. Pierre was in second place and Jacob in third. Now, the Manx class, the adult class for these Manx solo, dear me, shall I try that one again? The Manx solo class for adults was won by Richard Corlett, and lovely to see Richard still involved in the Guild. I clearly remember when, as a young boy, he was a very enthusiastic and very skilled competitor, and now he's a teacher, he's encouraging young people in their music, but lovely to see that he's got a few minutes to compete himself. So class win there for the solo for adults, and that was won by Richard Corlett. Now, let's have a listen to some folk songs. Now, this was a class earlier, it was yesterday in the Royal Hall. You know, it's funny, once the Guild starts, you completely lose track of the days. We were saying, a number of us, that once you get into the rhythm of the classes and everything that we're so familiar with, it just feels like almost an extension of last year, almost as though we've never been away. So yesterday we had some folk song classes for the young people, and lots of youngsters taking part in this. And these are the young people, their school years 4 to 8, so that's, 9 to 13, isn't it? So again, youngsters, lots of promise here, and we had almost 40 young people taking part. Patricia Cullen is the accompanist for this class, and it produced a very high mark for class winner Holly Murphy, she got 89 marks, and second place Emily Bridson, just 1 mark behind with 88, both of them from Sing Up. And both of them chose lovely songs, great folk songs, and I'm going to play them both for you. Let's hear first from the class winner. This is Holly Murphy and Cockles and Mussels.
In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone, and she wheeled her wheelbarrow through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels died of a fever, and no one could save her, and that was the end of sweet Molly Malone. But her ghost wheels her barrows through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
Wasn't that just great? Just a great expression in her singing. Very, very promising there. One to watch, definitely. Holly Murphy and Cockles and Mussels, winner of the folk song class for years 4 to 8. That's 9 to 13 years of age. And second place went to Emily Bridson, and she chose to sing There Was an Old Woman.
There was an old woman as I've heard tell, fa la 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 la. She went to market eggs for to sell, fa la 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 la. She went to market as I've heard say, fa la 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 la. She fell asleep on the king's highway, fa la 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 la. There came by a peddler whose name was Stout, fa la 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 la. He cut a petticoat round about, fa la 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 la. He cut her petticoats up to the knees, fa la 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 la, which made the old woman to shiver and sneeze, fa la 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 la. When this little woman did first awake, fa la 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 la, she began to shiver, she began to shake, fa la 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 la. She began to wonder, she began to cry, fa la 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 la. Oh dear me, this can never be I, fa la 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 la. Home went the old woman all in the dark, fa la 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 la. Then up got her dog and began to bark, fa la 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 la. He began to bark, she began to cry, fa la 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 la. Dearie me dear, this is none of I, fa la 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 la.
It's just beautiful voices, aren't they? Lovely, lovely. Second place there, Emily Bridson, and the story of that old woman. There was an old woman. And both Holly and Emily are members of Sing Up. What a beautiful diction, because that's the thing with folk songs. You do want to hear every word. And the other thing to bear in mind is that we've now moved, these are classes in the Royal Hall. So these are youngsters on a huge stage. And so I think many congratulations for singing with such confidence, because it is quite daunting. You know, I've said this before, I get nervous just walking across the stage when there's nobody in the audience. So hats off to them. Really do salute them. Now, I've got something gorgeous for you here. You are going to absolutely love this. Before I play it, let me just say hello to a few people who are in the lounge. The lovely Sue and John Parton, who are listening in the West Midlands, have sent an email that's really made me smile. And they've said, we're in the lounge, but we'll keep very quiet because we know you're very busy. Well, Sue and John, it's lovely to have your company. I know that because you're over on the island every year, I know that you will understand about our guild and how important all the performing arts are to us here, and I hope that you'll enjoy what you're listening to. And a little closer to home, we've got Mike and Anne in the lounge. They're checking in from Peel. Mike and Anne, it's lovely to have your company. A very good evening to you. Now, the other feature of the opening weekend of the Guild is the choir classes. And some years we start with the children's choirs, and some years, and then we end with the adult choirs, and then sometimes we turn it about, and that's the way it is this year. So we started with the adult choir classes this year, and that means that we will end the week with choir classes for the schools, which are just fabulous. Really looking forward to those. But we had some wonderful entertainment in the Royal Hall yesterday, and we started the afternoon with the Gaelic choirs for adults. And we had our lovely adjudicator, Gary Sealing, who's very, very funny, very wise, very experienced musician himself, a choir director. He's an organist, and he's got a lot of experience, and so he knows what he's talking about. So when he says that this choir was both endearing and engaging, we know that he's speaking from a position of great experience. The choir, who he found endearing and engaging, were our own Manx voices under the direction of Angela Stewart. Now, for this Gaelic choirs class, the choir are invited to choose 2 contrasting pieces, and this now is a winning performance for you from Manx Voices, singing to win the Gaelic choir class. Manx Voices.
As man a knoin
Beautiful singing there from Manx Voices, winners of the Gaelic choir class. And I must apologise for the sort of creaky noises that occasionally you hear in the background of that recording. It's, in fact, the stage in the Royal Hall has a certain amount of kind of movement in it. I suppose it's essential. And it's because it's kind of, when I say it's hollow underneath, it isn't. It's just it has to have space underneath so that all the wiring and all the complicated things can go on it. But it does make it give it a bit kind of springy. And unfortunately, that's what our microphones just occasionally pick up. So I hope that it didn't spoil your enjoyment of that. So I think you would agree with adjudicator Gary Sealing, who said that was both endearing and engaging. Incidentally, those two pieces, both of traditional Manx, you will have recognised them. Grime McCree was an arrangement by Harry Pickard, and Arain Evi was an arrangement by Frank Woolley. And it's a beautiful arrangement, isn't it? And of course, congratulations to the choir's musical director, Angela Stewart. We will be hearing more from Manx Voices later in the programme. But now it's time for us to take a break. After this, we're going to go to the films, actually, courtesy of Manx Youth Band A, right after this break.
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
Well, I'm going to get you doing a little bit of work now, a little bit of brain work, because I'm going to play for you the winning performance from the brass ensemble for players aged, nobody's got to be above 15. The ensemble can have anything between 5 and 10 players in it, but they must all be no more than 15 years of age. Class winners were Manx Youth Band A, and they played 3 pieces called collectively Kids at the Movies. Now, I've split the recording up into 3 pieces, and while they're playing, you've got to think which is the film. I'll tell you the film at the end. Okay? The end of each piece. Here's your first one, Manx Youth Band A. Think movies. I think the kids was just because they're the youngsters playing, but name the film. Well, award yourself 10 points if you said the Flintstones. Try this one. honest with you, that piece of music takes me back to, I would have said about the 1950s, and I know it as La Mer, but I'm told, on good authority, that it's from the film Nemo. So there you are. You can have 15 points if you got that one. You are listening to a class-winning performance from Manx Youth Band A, and this was the third piece that made up their winning performance, called collectively Kids at the Movies. Now this one is easy. You only get 5 points for this one. Yes, it was from Sister Act. I Will Follow Him. So there we had a little trio there from Manx Youth Band A, class winners, and snapping on their heels, just a couple of marks behind, were second place in that class for the brass ensemble up to nobody over the age of 15, and Douglas Town Band A, who played Does Your Mother Know? One of the big ABBA songs. They played that and took a second place. Let's give you some more results, and then we're going to have a little bit more choir music for you. So that was the brass ensemble. Brass quartet in the same age range up to 15-year-olds. Brass quartet, that produced a win for Manx Youth Band B with 3 pieces entitled collectively Gospel Time, arrangements by Alan Fernie, and second place Manx Youth Band D with a beautiful arrangement of Sweet and Low. We'll play that a little bit later in the programme. But just worth bearing in mind that if I mention a class but don't actually play the music, it doesn't mean that I won't be playing it, because we've got coverage every single day. I've got my hours programme every night between 9 and 10, and what I'm trying to do is mix up the music, the singing, the instrumentals, to give you as much variety as possible. So don't think that I'm missing out a class and I won't play the winning performance. It's just to kind of mix up so that you get a real flavour of the variety that I've been enjoying. So don't despair. You know, we've got a lot of coverage, a lot of time to play the music for you. So that was the quartets, Manx Youth Band D with Sweet and Low. That's one to look forward to. I'm not going to talk about the adult instrumental solo for brass instruments, because I am going to play 2 performances from that in the next hour, and they're very different, but just excellent. You will love both of them. So we'll talk about that later. Instrumental solo, brass instrument, years 11 to 13. So that's, what's that? School years 11 to, that's 16 to 18, isn't it? And that produced a first place for Timothy Payne and a second place for Rebecca Dawson. And in the instrumental solo for younger players, 14 and 15-year-olds, we had a first place for Annie Evans and a second place for Amy Krellin. And just going back to those Manx language classes, let me tell you a few more of the people who won classes on Friday. For the Bible in Manx, this is for younger competitors, school years 4 to 6, and Lily Fox was the winner there from the Bunscoil. And then for the Bible in Manx for school years 7 to 10, slightly older children, we had a second place for Fina Wilson and a first place, congratulations, to Archibald Elliott. And then reading at sight in Manx Gaelic for 16-year-olds and over, we had a first place for Dot Saunders and second place for Jonathan Ayres. And then Bible reading in Manx, we had first place for Paul Lewin and second place for Jonathan Ayres. And then a class for Contemporary Manx. Again, produced a win for Paul Lewin, but this time second place went to Dot Saunders. So that's just bringing you up to date with a few of those results. Now, how about a bit of choir music to take us up to 10 o'clock? And this is the wonderful Londu Male Voice Choir. Still going strong, still evidently loving their music, still under the baton of Wendy McDowell. And I wasn't actually in the hall for this particular performance, but so I have to assume that their accompanist is still, as it was last year, Regina Kaniewski. But this is a part of their class-winning performance. Just listen to the enthusiasm in this, the Londu Male Voice Choir.
The
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
And that was the Londu Male Voice Choir and the Battle Hymn of the Republic. There will be more from the Guild right after this.
Judith Ley, Manx Radio.
Sundown, brought to you by Tours Isle of Man. If you would like to receive our door-to-door 2018 coach holiday brochure, phone 822 611.
Welcome to another hour of Sundown at the Guild. Between now and 11 o'clock, I'll be bringing you some more winning performances from the first couple of days at this year's Manx Music Festival. But we will, of course, be breaking at 10:30 to join the history man. Terry Kringle will be along, but then after 11, we will resume our usual sundown fare. So can I just say good evening and welcome to Stephen and Stephen Neen. Thank you very much indeed for your email. Stephen, if you can just stay in our virtual late night lounge, I will read out your email and play the piece of music after 11 o'clock. But now we're going back to the Guild and just listen to this. It is a class-winning performance by the wonderful brass instrumental soloist Martin Norbury, who is a member of Russian Silver Band. Incidentally, in this class for instrumental solo brass instruments, the first and second places both went to members of Russian Silver Band. Second place was Ashley Cole. But we're going to listen now to Martin Norbury. He's playing the B-flat euphonium, and all I will say is enjoy. The accompanist is Jennifer Lowe, and this is Martin Norbury and Shadash.
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
That was some playing, wasn't it? Goodness me. Martin Norbury understandably got 90 marks for that, the highest mark that's been awarded in the festival so far this year. And that was for the instrumental solo, brass instrument. Close behind him, just a mark behind, was Ashley Cole, as I said, also from Russian Silver Band. He got 89 marks, playing an absolutely beautiful melody that's composed by a very well-known Salvation Army musician from America, William Himes, and we'll find time to play that just possibly tonight, but if not, certainly it will be in tomorrow's selection from the Guild. So congratulations to Martin and to Ashley. Now, how about a couple of folk songs? Now, the name that I'm going to tell you now will be one that's familiar to you. She's a very talented young lady, and we've featured her on the programme, and I hope we'll feature her again. And it's Robin May Lawler. And so this is folk song classes this is in age range, school years 9 to 13. So this is 14 to 18. And I'm going to play the first and the second place. Robin May Lawler was first placed with this version of Danny Boy.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. It's I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I may well be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say, and are they there for me? But I shall hear how soft you tread above me, and on my grief all warmer, sweeter be. For you will preach and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
Lovely big confident performance there from class winner Robin May Lawler and Danny Boy. The accompanist for this class is Madeleine Kelly. And just one mark behind Robin May was James Spencer, who's placed second, and his choice was a Scottish traditional folk song, and this is the Downside Emigrants' Farewell. This is James Spencer.
Come, all my old comrades, once more let us join, and raise your sweet voices in chorus with mine. Let us drink and be merry, from sorrow refrain, for we may and may never meet all here again. The time's fast approaching that I must away. I bid you adieu, for many's the long day. With with you, my dear comrade, so happy we've been here. But away to Virginia, my course I must steer. May heaven protect us with a prosperous gale, and be our safeguard while we are under sail. Lead us safe to the harbour across the proud wave. We will trust to his mercy, who can sink or can save. Farewell to the jewel, to you I love best, for you and your beauty excels all the rest. But if you prove constant, as constant can be, wherever I go, love, my heart is with thee. Come all my dear comrades, let's drink up a glass. Each lad drink a health to his darling sweet lass. Drink a health to each lover whose sweetheart is true. Here's a health, peace and plenty, so farewell and adieu.
And that was James Spencer singing a Scottish traditional song, The Downside Emigrants' Farewell. And a lovely email has come in from the Cartledge family, who are listening a long way away. They're in Detroit, but really wishing that they were here at the Manx Music Festival. Well, Chris and Cindy, I certainly wish that you were here too. And they're enjoying listening to the young singers, because Chris says that he has adjudicated at vocal music competitions for young people and find that the opportunity to encourage is by far the most important function that I could perform. Well, indeed it is, and I think that is the real sense of what we're getting from the adjudication this year, that it is about giving tips and advice on how everybody, whether they're young performers or slightly more mature performers, where they can perhaps just things that they can think about to perhaps improve their performance, because improvement equals more enjoyment, doesn't it? Chris and Cindy, thank you very much for listening. And who knows, we do the music festival, all being well, every year, and who knows, you might just be able to come along and join us. We've got Patrick Doyle, who's listening in Wicklow, and we've got Mel and Brian. They have checked in as well. It's great to have all your company. Thank you very much indeed for joining us as Sundown goes to the Guild. We'll be playing more of the winning performances between now and 11 o'clock, with a break, as I say, at 10:30 to join the history man, Terry Kringle, and then we'll do some Sundown music after 11 o'clock. But we have coverage every day from the Guild here on Manx Radio.
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
And Sundown is at the Guild. And now we're having a look at the mixed chorals class. And we had two choirs here, Rock Vannin and the Isle of Man Government Staff Choir. Now, I've discovered them at Christmas. I went to the carol concert just before Christmas in St Mary's Church in Hill Street, down here in Douglas, and they were fantastic, so I really wasn't surprised at all to see them in the Guild programme. Well, there's a set piece that both choirs had to perform, and it's that lovely Billy Joel song, Good Night My Angel, and then it was up to the choirs to choose another two contrasting pieces of their own choice. And there was only a mark in it, 87 marks for Rock Vannin and 88 marks for the Isle of Man Government Staff Choir. So let's listen to the Isle of Man Government Staff Choir's own choice pieces. From Nabucco by Verdi, it's Speed Your Journey, and At the End of the Day from Les Miserables, the Government Staff Choir. Lots of enthusiastic support there in the Royal Hall for the government Staff Choir. Now, I'm going to have to find out exactly who does what there, because I have a feeling that both Jonathan King and Mandy Griffin are involved in it, but I'm not sure whether they, as musical director and accompanist. But there's going to be a very easy way to find out, because each afternoon this week, Monday to Friday, I will be reporting live into Women Today around about 2:30ish. They will be joining. They'll be getting in touch with me down at the Villa Marina, and I'll be joined by Mandy Griffin, and we'll be talking about what's going on. And of course, Mandy will be able to give me the benefit of her expert views on these things, knowing all about music and such like. And one of the top of my list is to find out who is behind the Isle of Man government staff choir, because I wasn't actually in the hall whilst that was going on. But I'll tell you what I was in the hall for this morning. Absolutely beautiful. The dance classes. Oh my goodness. We'll be filming this before you know it, but just so much energy and enthusiasm and skill. Young people were superb. I'll be giving you some results about those when we've had a little chat with the history man. But and on tomorrow's programme, I'll also have a couple of interviews for you, because I was talking to one of the dance teachers, Sharon Rye, and also to a couple of the class winners, because I thought that was the best way that we could get a little flavour of the classes, because unfortunately dance doesn't work terribly well on the radio, does it? Mind you, the tap would have done, but it wouldn't really have done it full justice. So congratulations to everybody. I'll give you the results of the classes after the History Man, but very, very high standard, great choreography, real skill, and a lot of hard work went in there to the dance classes. They were on stage in the Royal Hall this morning. I will give you the results of those in about 5 minutes or so, after we have kept our date that we always have at 10:30 on a Sunday night with the History Man himself.
The History Man with Terry Kringle.
Hello. Yes, it was bad planning that made the first attempt at round-the-houses car racing on closed public roads in Douglas much less than an unqualified success. The first two races, called the Maninvoer and the Maninveg, were held in July 1933, 85 years ago. July was the busiest time of the summer tourist season, and holidaymakers, more interested in getting down to the beach or elsewhere than watching car races, found themselves virtually imprisoned in their hotels and boarding houses by road closing orders. In 1934, therefore, the races were moved to earlier in the year, to May, and the course was reduced from 4.6 to 3.7 miles. The start was now outside the Crescent Cinema, and the cars went up Broadway and Bray Hill by way of Balaquail Road and York Road, then along Glencrutchery Road to Onken, and then, as before, down Summer Hill to the Promenade and back to the Crescent Cinema. Meanwhile, the pits were established on the promenades, as were grandstands for spectators. In 1935 there were more changes, with the start line back at the Villa Marina, and the cars racing down the prom as far as the Sefton Hotel, where they made a U-turn to enable them to go up Broadway and follow the previous year's route back to the promenade. But in spite of all these things, competitor and spectator interest had faded a great deal, perhaps because of, for the competitors, the complexities and costs of getting to the Isle of Man. And in 1936 the seafront was removed from the race action, and the circuit was moved to the outskirts of Douglas, to what became known as the Williston Circuit, with start and finish at the TT Grandstand. By this time the event was called the RAC International Car Race, and it did pretty well for competitor and spectator interest. And so, in 1937, it was decided to take the cars back down to the promenade. The start was still at the grandstand, but the cars went down Balaquail Road and Broadway. When they reached the prom, they turned up towards King Edward Road to Port Jack, where they had to cross the Manx Electric Railway lines and negotiate the S-bend there to take them up towards Royal Avenue. But this was definitely the last time Douglas seafront was to figure in the proceedings. This decision may have been influenced by a fatal crash in 1937. There was a good entry of 22 cars, and one was driven by a 30-year-old company director from Hindhead in Surrey called Philip Jucker. In practice, in crossing the MER lines, he lost control at high speed and smashed into one of the electric power standards. He died in Noble's Hospital shortly afterwards. Before this, the races had been free of bad crashes, especially fatal ones. But the Isle of Man remained the only place in Britain where there was a closed-road circuit for car racing. Racing continued on the Williston Circuit until after the Second World War, and continued through the 1950s and into the 1960s. Many of the top drivers, including Stirling Moss, and the fastest cars took part. And it was still round the houses stuff to a large extent. But it was not to last. After that, there were many efforts by enthusiasts to bring out-and-out car racing back to the Isle of Man, but nothing came of them, and Douglas never did become a rival to the Monaco Grand Prix. This much, for me at least, is a great pity. I was a small boy living on Queen's Promenade in the 1930s, and I have one vivid memory of a huge silver monster of a car roaring past our front door, and it has remained with me ever since. Since then, I've never really taken to those pesky motorbikes you get in the TT.
Culture Vannin. Supporting Manx culture.
Thank you very much to Terry Kringle. And there will be another opportunity for you to hear this week's edition of The History Man. Andy Wint will play it for you in the Late Show tomorrow, Monday night, around about the same time, 10:30. New edition at 8:25 next Sunday morning. And I'll be playing that for you as usual, 10:30. Right, let's have a little bit of music, songs from the musicals. Now, this was in the Royal Hall last night, Saturday night, songs from the musicals for 14 to 18-year-olds. And let me just tell you that there were 34 young people who were programmed to sing, and there were only a couple who weren't actually able to compete. So we had a lot of entertainment. All kinds of musicals were covered, from some quite traditional ones to some newer ones, and it's one of the newer ones where we find our winning performance. It was a first place for Rhiannon Mellor, and the show that she chose to sing a song from is called Edges, and it's about 5 or 6 years old, and it's kind of a song cycle of cross between a song cycle and a musical, but it is a musical. But the whole story is told through the songs, and it is about young people, university age, tackling all the big questions of life about relationships and commitment, identity, love. All of these things are worked out in a series of songs. And Rhiannon chose to sing In Short from Edges. It was a winning performance, and this is Rhiannon Mellor to sing for you.
My love affair with you, it's over, it's through. We loved and then we lost, and while there came quite a cost, we both had the chance to grow. I've collected my thoughts, and once before I go, there's just one thing I want you to know. I want to punch you in the face, rip out all your hair. I want to burn you alive, and if you survive, I'll strap you to an electric chair, or lean out a window a little too far. Don't look both ways and get hit by a car. Fall out of a roller coaster, take a warm bath with a plugged-in toaster. In short, I really hope you die. Maybe it's wrong to wish death on someone you had so much love for, but since we shared so much, it makes me want to kill you more. I hope you both are doing great. New couples always are. I hope this won't make you mad. I did something bad. I played a tiny joke that involved her car. I pulled down windshield and set it on fire. Then I left a little note which says leave town or I'll cut your throat, which in short, I really hope you die. Okay, so maybe I've gone too far. Maybe I'm saying this out of spite. Maybe I think these things to cope with sleeping alone each night. 'Cause obviously I'm still thinking of you and wishing that we could just start over new. What if we both give it one more try? Sucks that we can't, 'cause you're a twit who deserves to die. Die, 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 dysentery, die, 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 gangrene, die, 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 lupus, die, 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 die. Fall when you're getting out of the shower and there are your tweezers on the floor because you were always plucking your eyebrows and you always cared about your eyebrows more than you ever cared about me. So when you fall, your tweezers pierce you right between your eyes, which aren't hazel. They're brown. Get beaten and slugged, molested and mugged. Wake up to find you were tied up and drugged. I hate you, I'm leaving, goodbye. In short, I'm over you, so die. Die.
Well, I think you could safely say that she's worked out that relationship, hasn't she? That was Rhiannon Mellor with one of the songs from the musical Edges. That was called In Short. And in second place, with pulled from a comedy musical, The Addams Family, there was Maisie Germishus, who had 88 marks, and she is a member of Sing Up. We need to take this break, and right after this, we will be celebrating a huge success for one of our very popular choirs. Right after this.
Sundown, brought to you by Tours Isle of Man. For great value, hassle-free, door-to-door coach holidays. Call us on 822 611.
And Sundown is at the Guild. We're looking at some of the performances over the first couple of days of the Manx Music Festival. It's in the Villa Marina and it goes on right through until next Saturday and finishes with a fabulous concert next Saturday night, the festival's finest. And if you can't pop into the villa, I wish you could. You will love it. I promise you that whether you choose to go into the promenade suite, we'll be having some classes in the Broadway cinema as the week unfolds, and then there's classes all day and every day and into the evening as well in the Royal Hall as well. Great variety of music, spoken word, instrumental classes. But if you can't pop in during the week, then do try and get to the concert on Saturday night, where we will bring you literally what it says on the label, the festival's finest, and it will be a representative selection of some of the best performances throughout this week. Right, let's go back to our choirs now. And yesterday, ladies' choirs were singing in the Royal Hall, and it was a very special day for the Lonvain Ladies' Choir, who were the first to sing, because their accompanist, Marilyn Kissack, it was her birthday yesterday, and news went round that she has been the accompanist for the Lonvain Ladies' Choir for 51 years. And all I can say is she must have been very, 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 very young when she started playing for the choir. So we wish her a belated, very, very happy birthday, and thank you, Marilyn, for all those years of devoted service. The Lonvain Ladies' Choir is under the baton of Christine Bragazzi. They sang beautifully. Very, very tough competition in this class. They were up against Manx Voices, Moraine Uns Arrain, which is the WI Choir, and the Glen Faber Ladies' Choir. And first place there went to Manx Voices, and second place to the Glen Faber Ladies' Choir. And as I say, just because I'm not playing that that music now doesn't mean to say it won't feature in another of our programmes as the week unfolds. Just trying to give you as much of a mix of music as I possibly can. And we're going on now to the concert class. That also was in the Royal Hall yesterday. And this really is an excellent entertainment. Each choir that takes part presents a 15-minute own choice programme with all the announcements, just like a little mini concert. And we had 6 choirs taking part. So it was great variety of music, really terrific entertainment. And thank you to everybody who was involved. We had the Ballacottia Community Choir, we had Manx Voices, we had Musicale, we had the Glen Faber Chorale, Meadowside Choral Society and the Londu Male Voice Choir. And there was really just nothing to choose between the marks, just 1 or 2 marks between them all. We had a second place in this class for Manx Voices, but the honours first place went to Meadowside Choral Society under the direction of Mike Porter. And this is how they opened their programme. And that was just part of the class-winning performance from Meadowside Choral Society. We will play more of their programme in forthcoming programmes, but congratulations to them on a very convincing win in the concert class yesterday. Now, let me give you the results of the dancing this morning in the Royal Hall. Let me tell you who won the prizes there. And we started off with a ballet solo for young dancers, school years 3 to 6. And we had a second place for Izzy Greaves and a first place for Arwen Hoyle. And then in the character dance duet, this is for up to 11-year-old dancers, we had a second place for Isabel Wiggett and a first place for the Mad Hatters Dance and Theatre Academy. And the piece that they danced was called Mischief Mastered. I'd like to know how they do that. These are beautiful. They're lovely classes to look at. And then that was followed by the group Modern, and that was up to 11-year-olds. And we had a second place for Move It, a dance group. And then in a first place was a group from Gina's Dance Academy. Just a mark between each of those, 88 for the winner, 87 for the second place. So well done to them. Tap Solos produced a second place for Lee Mycock. The dancing to eye level, do you remember that? That was the theme to Van der Valk, wasn't it, on the television a million years ago? So Lee Mycock in second place. First place went to Erin Farragher, and the piece that Erin was dancing to was I've Got Rhythm. Megan Jones won the ballet solo for school years 7 to 10, and then the group Modern, this is up to 15-year-olds in this group, produced a second place for Senoritas, and they were from the Unity Dance School, and a first place for Divinity from MK Dance Dynamics. Again, just a mark separating them, 87 in second place for the Senoritas from Unity Dance School, and 88 for Divinity, MK Dance Dynamics. So congratulations to you all. I absolutely loved watching the tap dance solos, and we had second place for Megan Jones, 85 marks for Theatrics Theatre School. Well done, Megan. And a first place for Abigail Gimbert from the Sharon Rye School of Dance, and she did a great tap dance routine to Johnny Be Good. Group Modern for school years 11 and over, very highly marked class here. We had a second place for Male Trio from the Academy of Dance, and a first place for Pippa Salter from Man in Contemporary Youth. And there was 90 marks for the first place, and there was 89 marks for the second place there, so very high standard there. And we finished the dance competitions with the tap dance solo, and that produced a first place for Shannon Karen from Gina's Dance Academy, and a second place for Lisa McGee from Theatrics Theatre School. As I say, it was a terrific classes, all of them. Beautiful concert, the beautiful costumes, great choreography, and all of the young people so completely well presented. And the other thing that I love with dancers is the way they walk on stage and off stage, completely poised. You know, they don't just suddenly kind of get into a dance position when they're on the stage. They walk in very gracefully and in complete control. So thank you to everyone involved for a very, very entertaining time today in the Royal Hall. Right, I promised you a little bit of music. This is Sweet and Low from Manx Youth D. It was the winner of the quartet class. This was I know it wasn't the winner, wasn't it? I think this was the second place. It was, but there wasn't very much in it. Let's have a look at the quartets. It was Gospel Time, Manx Youth Band B, who won with Gospel Time, and Manx Youth Band D, who came second with Sweet and Low. We'll save up Gospel Time for another programme. This is Sweet and Low from Manx Youth D. And adjudicator Christina Thompson complimented Manx Youth Bandy on the very peaceful feeling that they got to their playing of Sweet and Low.
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
And we will have more coverage at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Oh, ahead of that, 2:30 on Women Today and 10 to 8 on Mandate. But we are heading towards news and weather with this break.